So would you like to share with anyone a little bit about your process? Because I'm thinking that some people that are going to be watching and listening to this might be people that could be anyone who says, hey, I'm happily employed right now, and I'm just looking for an additional revenue stream.
Yep.
Some people might be in career transition. You know, there's there's a Portland-based company that just announced another round of layoffs. And somebody that's like might already be in research mode. Just give an idea of your process, and I would love to hear any advice you have to those that are thinking about navigating the search. So take that away.
Well, so I was one of the individuals that was downsized. So this decision was, do I go back into corporate America in my early 40s, start over from scratch with a new organization in a new city? I'd recently moved to Boise, Idaho, so I hadn't worked for an organization here. And it just seemed like the deck was stacked. And so I took my severance package and I looked at some other options. And it did not take long. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but it only took me a couple weeks to realize this is an avenue that I want to pursue and see if it pans out. I did look at existing businesses. I looked at starting my own business, and a webinar that I looked at, also talked about franchising and the differences between all three, the pros, the cons. For me, I'm kind of a mix of a lot of the options. I like the stability and safety net of a franchise because you have that support system in place if you choose wisely of your franchise, but also it's not the franchise that's so rigid that I don't have some control over my day-to-day, where I can shop I can choose my own vendors, I can source my own products, and I have some control, unlike other franchises where they tell you where you're buying everything. And it's just a recipe, and you just give them money and they give you the rest, and then you do it. And I needed a little bit more control, I guess, over that. And so the surprising thing was that a lot of people think franchises are very rigid, and there's just such a wide array of businesses and business types out there. What I was surprised to learn, and I wish I had learned it earlier, was that it is something that I could have done when I had a decent salary and I was working. I always thought, man, I don't have time for this. I already work 50, 60 hours a week. I can't put any more time into another business without having my work and my family life suffer. When we first started talking, we were talking about opportunities to replace a corporate income. But there were just as many opportunities to, at a much lower investment level, that required a more semi-absentee type model. And I wish I would have done that before. Found something that was 5 to 10 hours a week. They are out there that have a lower investment point. And that's something that I could have built on. And I could have started 10 years ago. And I would have had another revenue stream and kind of could have cut over to it slowly. In my mind, I was thinking it's one or the other. And I'd have this period that you just have to cut over and just do it, and just forgive your salary and start working at this new business and try to get back to where you were. And ultimately, that's what I had to do through the method of being downsized and going that route. But I didn't need to be, and I could have done it. Had I educated myself a little bit more, I could have made this process happen a little earlier for me.
For what it's worth, because we host some panel discussions fairly regularly. It's my favorite thing to do, and I'll be asking you to participate on a panel discussion here very shortly. And I never know what the owners are going to say. We just never know. It's always just candid and transparent. But the one theme that I have heard from potentially every panelist, except I can think of 2 panelists that are in their early 30s. Every other panelist, their only regret was that they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah, no, that is regret. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had the income or the savings to get this done too. So, just things happen in life, and you just got to roll with them, and they're meant to be what's meant to be. My process took me through a lot of concepts, if you remember.
I do remember.
You're like, Eric, I really hate to give you more than
Eric
5 to look at.
Well, Eric, you were insatiable.
I know, 12, 13 concepts, let's go. You know, and I remember when I found the industry that I liked, though. It took a while. I mean, the first concepts put in front of me were all over the board. Little, big, a lot of customer interaction, very little, you know, and all of them, after we went through the personality profile, which was super important in learning about yourself and your strengths, I was surprised to see how those strengths translated to all these different types of industries and a different workday in each one of them. If you recall, I was looking at one concept, general manager, you know, 10 hours a week, 10 to 15 hours a week, semi-absentee, probably would have been the easiest solution I could have chosen, but it just didn't feel right here. You know, I wanted to be more involved, and it didn't quite have the potential upside. Again, going back to betting on myself, you know, I wanted something that I could control the upside. So I looked at a lot of concepts. It was nice when I found the industry. Do you remember that? I found the sign and ban industry. I went to a discovery, and I came back and I said, let's clear everything off. Now what do you have in this segment, in this industry? And we almost restarted things a little bit, but we had more focus. And we knew now we just needed to find the right business, the right support, the right management, the right fee structure, and everything that fit what I was looking for.
Yeah. And I'd like to ask something. I just had this conversation with a professional day before yesterday, I think, and I'm actually creating a little snippet on a common misperception among franchising as it relates to having industry experience. And that's just not required in franchising. And I heard you say that you were surprised at how transferable. Do you mind my mentioning one thing?
Sure.
I don't know if you remember, but early on in the process, if I remember correctly, you said, I would like to look at one IT business.
I did.
And that was all that you had known. Correct. So I would be curious to hear your opinion or your experience on looking at a franchise in the industry that you had so much experience in, and why or why not that did not appeal to you.
I did look at a computer support tech business, and it would have been very safe. But as an owner, I feel like I would have been doing a lot of the work. You know, like I know how to get that done. Here, just let me do it. And instead of letting an employee learn through that process, I would just jump in there and do in 5 minutes what I knew would take him an hour to do. And the company that you put me in front of actually didn't quite fit on the management side. You know, they had a structure to put in place, and it seemed like their costs were a little high for what they did. There were a lot of people doing that same kind of business with far less expenses out of like a home office sort of thing. So it just didn't quite seem like the model. And I'm glad I came to that conclusion, because I've read 2 books since then that really kind of reinforced that. One was the one you sent, and I'm blanking on the name right now, that franchising.
Smart franchising?
Yeah, it just tells you a little bit of the good, the bad. It just kind of gives you some clarity into that world, which I thought was great, because it didn't take a side either way. It just said, this is what we find to be true, and this is, you know, this is the industry, you know, take it or leave it. And then there's another book that was recommended a lot called The E-Myth, and I have read it. I have sent one to another owner in Vancouver, Washington.
Wow.
He has read it, and I'm glad that I didn't take that IT opportunity, because I would have been what they call in that book a technician, which is the person doing the work, working in the business and not on the business. You know, the baker that is so good at making cakes that all her friends and family say, you got to open a bakery. Your cakes are so good, your cookies are so good, go open a bakery. And so that's what they do, and great products start coming out of this bakery, but no one's steering the ship. She's making the cookies and she's making the cakes. And one of the things that I was actually thankful to read was some of the most successful business owners have no knowledge of the industry that they just bought into. And they're not bringing any baggage with them as well. They're not bringing any preconceived notions or anything. I haven't done anything in the promotional items business. So I just had to leverage my skills of being a people person and being diligent and doing my research and being able to make those one-on-one connections with individuals that are going to help me in all kinds of different types of careers. This is just the one that I happen to choose. Yeah. But it was your survey and all the conversations that we had that kind of drove those strengths and weaknesses. You don't realize sometimes where those strengths and weaknesses lie. And weakness is a bad term, but it's really just something that tells you what you will and will not be good at. It helps me determine. I've given that survey to customers, other business owners. Yes. And it's not to decide what business they want, and it's not to decide how successful they be, because they are already a business owner, but it helped me align them with advertising efforts that were in their best interest. If you don't walk into a room and come off great and you look at your shoes and, you know, maybe Google Ads is your best way to advertise. Then if you're like me and you can just walk into a room and talk with a bunch of people without any prep at all, then, you know, then there's that skill set that you can leverage. And I liked that. I like that I can help the different types of business owners out there, because they all think I have to do this. I was told I need to go get shirts, or I told I need to get mugs and different things, but it's not the same thing as right for everyone. And that's the expertise I want to bring to my business, is that we're not order takers. You know, we're going to help you make the right decision for your business.